Okay, so I have this one thing that I have been focused on. Oh yeah, and by the way, this video, well, it's officially, unofficially sponsored by Coca-Cola because I like Coca-Cola. So, they might be like, what is this guy doing? We didn't sponsor him. But, you know, I like soda. But I have in my hand my phone, obviously, as with most other millennials. And so what I'm looking at is this list of things that people can do for autism or autistic awareness. And I don't even like the word awareness because I'm pretty sure the majority of the people know about autism, that it's nothing you have to be aware about. It's something that you have to accept. That's why I call it Autistic or Autism Acceptance Month. And, you know, like I said before with like regards to like what we were talking about with Black History Month, that, you know, a month isn't enough time to dedicate it to just one group of people. You have to be they have to have positivity all throughout the year, you know, and that's what I'm arguing for. But ultimately in this video, what I have is a list that I created earlier this month about autism, about being autistic. And I know that I'm not wearing a Sonic hat, or I don't have a fidget spinner, or a Minecraft jacket, because there's no single autistic look, you know, necessarily, but, you know, I'm on that spectrum. So, here's the thing, is hashtag autism acceptance, and I urge everyone to get the facts about Autism Speaks. As we know, I call it a hate group in a way because it serves as much purpose for the autistic community as, you know, maybe that, you know, family council or whatever they call it does for the LGBT community. They actively dehumanize us, they go against our existence as a people, and they don't include us. And that is one of the things that, you know, drives me up the wall. Not literally. I know that we are having autistic people in the audience, so I don't mean literally, okay, folks? So what I mean is that you look at the fact that they talk about a cure. I don't want a cure. Really, none of us really want a cure because we're unique. We were born that way. It's not like, you know, we want positive relationships. Yes, we want, you know, social, you know, rights and inclusivity. But, you know, to trade our diagnosis for that, it's something I personally wouldn't do. There are some people who might, but I, among other autistic people I know, would not want that to happen. Okay, going on to the next point. That I have this gripe about the term people with autism, and I get it that it comes from a place where people mean very well. They mean that, you know, they're not excluding autistic people, but, you know, the thing is, or that they're not putting us into a group, but in a way they're separating us from our diagnosis. And that is a problem when you take into account the fact that our diagnosis pretty much determines parts of our lives, in the sense of, you know, education, jobs, relationships, you name it. And, you know, just by saying autistic person, you're not dehumanizing us, autistic people, you're not dehumanizing us. But when you're saying, you know, people with autism, it's like separating it. It's like saying people with cancer. Though, you know, I can't, that is a horrible comparison on my part, because as we know, autism is not cancer at all. Because we're not killed by being autistic, except, when people misconstrue what we're doing and, end up killing us, or if we're bullied enough that, we have high suicide rates, unfortunately. And, I was nearly a statistic myself, and I find it to be very sad, and I'm coming from a genuine place in my heart, that, when I'm talking about autism in a way being like a death sentence, I'm not saying it as it'll kill us or that we don't live fulfilling lives, because by the very message I'll further go into in this, video, we obviously have our own issues that we have to face. But, in a way, when it's not a death when it is a death sentence, is because people mistreat us to the point where things go wrong, where we end up getting killed, or we end up, unfortunately, taking our own lives, and that's not cool. That's not. And, I know a few people who are on the spectrum who have went through with it. I, to be honest, nearly did. And yeah, I'm trying not to get choked up here, because it's something that hits home for me personally, and so I'm trying to stay rational, just letting you all know. Okay, going on to the next point, that that my personal wish, this is my personal list of things I have noticed from the autism spectrum, from people on the spectrum, and that, I just urge people to try to understand where we're coming from. And, with statistical reasoning, it makes sense that we're expected to conform to the majority, which are neurotypicals. But please understand where we're coming from as well. It'll help us a lot. I can't emphasize that enough. It'll help us. And I'm not even through half of these, so buckle in, folks. It'll be a bumpy ride. But another point I am trying to make is that you don't diminish what we have to say if we're knowledgeable about a certain subject. I'm not saying it's the equivalent of quote-unquote mansplaining or whatever they call it nowadays, but for me, it's just, I'm trying to talk about something I like. I mean, I may be wrong. Sometimes I am wrong. I'm prone to being wrong like everyone else. But, sometimes, when I say that, oh, I'm autistic, people automatically that are treating me like I'm, some kind of little special snowflake or something, because I just said, oh, I'm autistic. And, that's just, in a way, I know that sometimes people are trying to mean well, but, it comes off like they're not even dehumanizing me, but diminishing what I have to say and what my thoughts are as a human being, just like they are. So going further, this is something that has always bothered me throughout my whole life. It is that, there are people who believe that you can cure autism, that you can cure it. You know who else? You know what else can be cured? Being gay, being trans, supposedly, because that's a bunch of pseudoscientific bullshit. And vaccines do not cause autism, as a matter of fact. I'd rather have an autistic child than a dead child, even if that child is severely autistic, like nonverbal. I'm not talking about, Asperger's or, what was once considered high-functioning autism, like, basically neurotypical passing autism, as I call it. But we're talking about, just the fact that it just devalues us as a group when you're trying to say, oh, I'd rather have a kid who dies of a horrible, horrible disease like polio or something, or, is afflicted by some disease than, autistic. And besides that, you can't get autism from a vaccine. And trust me, I've had a lot of vaccines. Okay, maybe. But anyway, it doesn't cause It doesn't cause any autism or anything like that. It actually saves a lot of people. And the thing is that a neurological disability that exists on a spectrum. It's not a mental illness. It doesn't mean I'm schizophrenic, I'm bipolar, I'm, any of that. Like, there are people who are autistic who may have those, like other mental illnesses. But, autism itself is not a mental illness at all. And I urge people to get knowledgeable about that. And let's see what else. That I'm just going into the fact that this is another part that bothers the shit out of me. It's the whole idea that we are savants or criminals. Now, what I mean is that there has been this idea that these autistic individuals are all, Rain Men, like that movie Rain Man from the 80s with Dustin Hoffman, where he plays this autistic savant. Well, we're not all like that, there are some people, but we're, if we have Asperger's, or we're, on that side of the spectrum, then we're prone to having our special interests. Well, hold on, folks. I personally don't like to call them special interests because they're just interests to me. But, the way I get into them, now that's kind of special. But, yeah, it's not a mental illness. It doesn't make us savants, and it doesn't make us criminals. And most people who bully us do so out of what we consider a point of, I wouldn't even say insecurity, but, this perceived lack of social skills that we have, because it makes us more likely to be bullied than to be bullies ourselves. And I'm not saying that, we're all perfect little angels or whatever, special snowflakes. Hell no. But I'm just saying that this whole thing about autistic people being just one way or the other, it's not right. It's not a nuanced, sentiment at all. So going further into my favorite one, and this is the sexual part of it. Buckle up, kids. Except, no, not kids. God, no. Now this will be probably taken down. But anyway, we're not all asexuals. And now, I always thought that an asexual was someone who just didn't have sex, who didn't want to have sex. I'm kind of right, kind of wrong on that. But here's the thing. We autistic people, we can get married, we can have sex, and we can procreate, we can have kids. But here's the thing, too, that, there are difficulties with us in the dating scene, that, when we talk to the person about our diagnosis, they might leave. I mean, and people are entitled to have their own, preferences, and I don't blame them. I have my own preferences. But, it's not a death sentence for us, like what I said earlier. But, we're not all asexual. Some of us may be, but some of us are, gay. Some of us may be bisexual, as yours truly is. But going on, we are not, a bunch of spoiled children continuing on with the infantilization of autistic people. We are not spoiled children. We're not lazy. I mean, some of us can be. I mean, I've been lazy, and I think I would be lazy sometimes if I weren't autistic, but I wouldn't know what I would be like if I weren't autistic, So, I'm going into the fact that, like, I've sat on the couch for 2 hours trying to think of this list I'm writing, and it's taken me almost 15 minutes to tell it in detail. So, but here's the thing, the diagnosis itself is nothing to be ashamed of. It's something to be proud of. I'm not one for the whole pride talk, like with regards to identity politics, but I'm very proud to know that, my disability doesn't prevent me from living the life I've always dreamed about, or at least pursuing it. Now, is it harder than if I weren't autistic? It could be in some regards, but I'm just happy to let you all know that I'm autistic, and that we, the autistic people, are individuals with different dreams, different backgrounds and different lives. Thank you for the 15 minutes or so of your time. And as a matter of fact, I would like it if you like, subscribe, share, leave an autistic comment, of course. You know, maybe your Minecraft user name or something. But anyway, bye!